Can you go over the ups and downs? How's it say UPS? Ups and downs for different drive systems, chain, belt, and shaft for a bike, and how easy it is to maintain. So for me, I just got into the chains, but I've had a belt, and I've never, ever had an issue with my belt. And I've known some people that had a belt blow up on them, but I've got about 30,000 miles on my bike. I've taken my bike off road without a belt guard. Never had an issue with my belt, and I've looked at it many times, and I don't have any nicks or cracks, and I follow the Harley's service manual, and the belt's fine. The chain, I don't know too much, and the shaft, I don't know too much. There's a great video from motorcyclist.com that goes over that, Joshua. So I personally don't know too much about that. Do you know anything about chain versus shaft versus belt? Okay, perfect.
So best of both worlds is belt.
Okay.
You know, so the cool thing about belt is that there's not a lot of play in it. So if you're talking about, so if it's a drive shaft, let's say the bike, you lose a ton of power through that shaft before it gets to the rear wheel. There's a lot of power loss through there.
In the shaft? Mm-hmm. See, I don't know any of that. I'm learning with you guys.
There's a lot
right
of power loss through the shaft, and then some bikes you get this weird lifting in the rear feeling. Like there's this weird feeling on a shaft drive. Okay. It's unique to shaft drive. It just feels fucking awkward.
Is that just like an old system?
Yeah, well, no. I mean, still still some bikes do it that way.
So Shadow does, right?
Some shadows do.
Okay.
So if you're talking about reliability, so there's zero maintenance. Like you don't have to worry about tightening anything or lubing it up or anything like that. You do have to replace some oil or something like that.
Yeah, there's a little oil. I remember there's a little oil
in the drive shaft at some point. And I think that's miles and miles and miles of interval. Like you don't have to do that every 5,000 or 10,000. I think that takes a while for you to get to that point where you need to do it.
The lifting is due to the torque.
Okay. So yeah, so it's just a weird, awkward feeling, but you lose a lot of power through the shaft. So
thank you, Diego.
Yeah, thanks. So chain drive is the absolute best for power delivery because there's no give. You know, it's there. I
mean, that's why everyone's telling, like, back when I was riding off road, it's like, why aren't you converting it to chain? You get more power or something.
No, the belt's to me, the belt's fine. So the problem with chain is that you have to lube it and tighten it, and there's sprockets and all that shit wears out. And at some point you need to replace the chain and the sprocket, and it's constantly tightened, constantly lubing it. It's just a lot of work. It's the best power delivery, but it's a lot more work to maintain it.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that with Nikki's Rebel.
Belt is there's a little bit of play there, but it's not a lot. And
I've never had an issue.
You don't have to lube it up. You don't have to and so you may have to tighten it every now and then, but it's very, very seldom. And so belt to me is the best of both worlds between low maintenance and best power delivery. And so a lot of bikes out there nowadays are using belt drive. And then shaft drive, you lose power, but you have to, there's really no maintenance.
I mean, all the Indians are belt, right? So for
all the Indians are belt.
FTR is chain. I think it's chain.
It might be.
Yeah, I think it's chain. So that's like the only Indian that's chain. Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, you'll have to make sure that you maintain it. Like it just requires more maintenance. Belt, you look at it, you make sure there's no rocks in there. If you have a belt guard, there's probably nothing in there, and then you're done. So that's the nice part. Chain, they get so grimy and gross because there's lube on it, and then all this dust, especially here, just gets cated, and it's disgusting. And
and you have to clean it
yeah, man, it's often
like a lot.
Yep, a lot.
A lot. Like I read somewhere it's like every 100, 200 miles.
Yeah, it's probably once every week or a couple weeks.
That's right. I've never done anything like that with the belt. Every time I do like a weekly, or before I ride and I haven't been on it for a while, I'll check my bike real quick. I'll do a quick walk around and I'll look at the belt real quick. And the thing with the belt is I remember reading the Sportster service manuals that, like, you know, if it's there's like a cut in the groove, and they show pictures in the service manual. So it's always good to have a service manual when you get a bike. It's different than the owner's manual. And so it tells me exactly what it is I need to look for. And so far on my belt, after taking it off road, thousands of miles across Arizona, California, and all that stuff, no dings, no nothing. And that could be just me, but I never had an issue.
No, and a lot of these are like Kevlar reinforced.
Yeah.
Like they're pretty tough.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, how many miles do you have on your Sportster?
Roughly 30,000 right now.
Yeah, 30,000 of like abuse.
And I've never had to load it or not load it, lube it. You know, adjust.
They probably
it.
tighten it.
Well, when I get a new tire.
They probably tightened it at some dealers, but man, you've abused the shit out of that thing, and you haven't had to really mess with it. Whereas a chain, it's just way more work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work with the chain.
But it's the best power delivery.
Yep. I was actually thinking about it, switching, getting a pretty nice sprocket, and.
But I think belt now, especially nowadays, these belts are getting even stronger and stronger. That it's almost.
It's gonna make.
I don't know how different they are as far as power delivery goes.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Andy, you got like some sticky stuff on your back.
It's probably boogers.
You got some boogers.